Right, Sheena back again with one of the most requested techniques you've been asking me for, and I've been promising you that I'm gonna show you. And here it is. It's caught in crystal. Now this is a technique I did about 8 years ago, and when I did it, it was one of those that I just couldn't believe it. I loved it. So I'm going to warn you now, it's extremely addictive. First time I tried it, I had about 50 of them drying around the house, and this is the kind of look you're going to get. If you look, can you see the way they've got facets in the background? It looks like nothing else really I've seen. It does look like cracked ice, crystal, depending on the colours you use. Gorgeous technique. That's one example, and here's another. So now, about 8 years ago when I was doing this, I was just using ordinary acetate, stamped an image onto the acetate using just a black state on. But you know when you come back to something and you make it faster, sleeker, stronger, if you notice, these images have been stamped and embossed, so that's the first thing you're going to need. You're going to need some heat resistant acetate, and I like to stamp and emboss a bold image like the wildflowers from the Little Bit Sketchy range, or the tall tree works great as well, which I'll show you shortly. So stamp and emboss your image onto your acetate before you start. Okay, that's the first thing. I've used black glint here, and I used the gold, I don't know if it's gold sparkle, I think it's called, both from the Wow range. Right, so we're going to pop those to one side, and the big secret ingredient, well, it's not a secret, but it's a secret on TV because I can't tell you, but here I can show you. This is the stuff you're looking for in the flesh. It used to be called just clear, and it was a clear bottle. And now I've got stuff from years ago and that's what it was like. But now this is how it's marketed. It's called Pledge Multi-Surface Wax, and it works great just the same. I tell you what, it is better though. It smells much nicer than the old stuff. It smells lovely when you're drying it especially. So that's what you're looking for. Asda is where I got mine. Now, pop that to one side. So, having said that, here's an image that I've stamped and embossed using the wildflowers all ready to play with. Okay, we're going to pop that there, and I've used a piece of old paper or card. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be new, just reused is fine. So pop it face down on your card. Now this card's kind of curved up here like this, it's kind of creating a bowl, and that's great because it's going to keep the floor polish where I want it. Now I'm going to show you the first way to do this, and this is not the technique I did a few years back, but this is one way to approach this, and I'm using the colour concentrate, the Radiant Rain colour concentrates. I have 3 colours here, just in case you're wondering. I've got wine and roses, I have yellow rose, you can say I want a rose theme, and I also have hot cinnamon, why not? So give them a shake before you start, because you need to get the mica dispersed there and unsettled and mixed into the fluid. Now I like to kind of start with a lighter colour. Now here, this is different to the approach with the H2Os, but here's what I'm doing, I'm just dotting. Now work kind of outside the area, you want enough to trim off, so like I say, work outside where you're going to end up to give yourself nice trimming room to correct any little bits that you don't want there. Does that make any sense at all? Well, you'll see what I mean as we go on. So just splodging some colour. Be careful with these, I'm going to warn you. They're mighty powerful. They are concentrated. The colour, the clues there, these are colour concentrate. So what you're going to find is when you put that on, they look strong already, but the next stage is to take some of my floor polish, and literally you're going to pour puddles. You really want it just to actually spread out like that, smush around, get it working across the surface. Now can you see how it's blending in a bit more? You really do want a puddle on here. Don't be scared to get some on there. Now if you need to, you can get your brush and just move it around a bit more, swirl some colour in. You don't want to over swirl it though, because you want to keep some separate colours going on, right? Next thing I have prepared is a piece of paper. This is just really the kind of stuff you get you know, in loos and stuff, public loos, where you know the really cheap stuff. It's just that, paper towels, not even not posh kitchen paper. If you haven't got any of that type of paper hanging around the house, use something like, you know, like the 3-ply men's tissues, the big tissues. You want a decent sized one, and just separate it into 3 separate plies. And I'll show you what the stuff is that I've just used here. I had it ready, split into 1 ply, scrunched it up, and then I've literally just placed it on there. The next thing you're going to do is give that a dry. So you're going to head and just dry that. Now the temptation's going to be to look and see what you've got. I do that all the time, I can't help it, but be careful because you don't want the tissue to part company from the acetate. If you started off drying, a hairdryer is good for this. Best is overnight, but you can force it dry. I've done it within an hour or so. And if you look, you can have a sneaky peek. Ooh, so pretty. So what you're going to do is park that to one side now. Be patient, leave it. Leave it alone, do not touch it, do not be tempted. So let's do another one. That was with the colour concentrate. If you notice, I put the concentrate on first. This time, we're going to do it a bit different. This time's the way I used to do it. We're using the tall tree this time. Now, again, get everything ready. Before I start, however, this time, make sure I've got my 2-ply, just cheap kitchen, you know, paper towel. Piece ready, it's scrunched up, ready to go. Scrunch it up, then straighten it out a little bit. This is just 1 ply. Right, that's ready. Now, I'm going to pour some floor polish onto there. You can see it looks a little bit milky, but so do a lot of acrylic-based products before you start using them. Like even your PVA and things, you know, it's white before it dries and it goes clear. And that's all good. So what I'm doing is I'm smushing this around outside of the area so that I'm going to give myself a good amount of trimming room. As much as I can. Without it, I don't want it running under there and spilling onto the front, the underneath of the acetate, because it can stick it to the paper. If it does, just wet the paper and just rub it off with your fingers. But it's best to not have to do that. Okay, so just splodge. Now, what I'm using here, I should have mentioned, I'm using H2Os this time. And rather than start off with the dabbers, I've started off with the polish because I want the H2Os to just smush in amongst the polish. And you wouldn't want to put your dabbers into floor polish, would you? Because that would contaminate them. So can you see, just go ahead and smush that. Oh, you know what I didn't put on the other one, which I need to remind you to put on this one, is a little bit of glitter. You can put anything in there, a little bit of dried mica if you want to put that threaded through. But glitter works great, the very fine stuff, you know, the nice quality ultra fine glitters. Crystal, I like to use the crystal glitter. So just pop a little bit and you can just sprinkle it here or there. Less is more. If you put too much on, it just mops up all your fluid and it doesn't help things. So before that sneaks off there, this is where as well you're going to find out if your table's straight. When I described this to you, I bet you didn't really think it was that messy. You know, and if you read the instructions anywhere written down, you'll think that you're not getting it. You'll think you've misread it. You think, well, that cannot be the case. Now, I didn't invent this. This was something I've learned about 8 years ago. And you'll see, you know, people will show you how to use it with things like lacquers, your glossy accents, crystal lacquer kind of thing. But seriously, floor polish, I can't remember how much it was. It was under £3 for all of that. Hello. If you can do it with that, why would you use your posh stuff? Right, now that's that. Give it a dry again. We'll leave that as it is. Now when that's dry, you're going to have something that looks like this. Right, when you turn it over, it's crispy. Until it's crispy, you don't want to do the next bit, which is going to be trimming it. Now, preferably, actually, before you even put it in your paper trimmer, I would just cut away some of this excess stuff like that. Get rid of the stuff that's hanging around. That's just going to get in your way when you're putting it in your trimmer to straighten things out. Now, can you see you want as big an area there that you can trim neatly as possible, which is why I smushed that around a bit outside of the area. Don't work too tight an area there. And then, get it in your trimmer and go ahead and just trim off the excess. And you know, the tree looks great if it's off-centred, which is good because this one's going to be. See how we just can change the plan as we go with whatever we've got. There, see now, and that's what you're going to get. Now, another tip I found that works better. You can put that against a white card background. Let's see if that's cleanish. And it reflect the light through it. But what I think works even better is if you use it. Now, this is, I'll change this again, against a mirror card background, because that is super reflective and I think it just pushes even more light behind it. Okay? Can you see that? Now another little tip before we finish I want to show you, those stamps I used, the tree and the wildflowers, are solid opaque silhouette type stamps. This one is so clearly not, okay, but I'm going to show you how we can make those opaque. Before we do that, I'm going to show you how to stick the foreground to the background. A couple of ways I've found work great. The first one is using sticky dots. Now these have to be the big proper really super sticky dot types. Now be careful when you do this that you don't pull the paper away from the acetate. So this is where you really need to make sure that it's super dry. And the second way is with brads. I don't like to use a wet glue because the wet glue can kind of unsettle the foreground from the background, and you don't want that to happen when you spent all that time getting that lovely look. So there's just some sticky dots. Use that. Bring that back in, and then just a little bit. Now normally I would have to stand up to line this up, so it's not perfect. It's my I'm doing it for you. There you go. Alright, so now that, you see that just, and I just like that edge, that miracle just finishes it off. Now, the bit I was talking about. I might want to make that galleon look really dramatic and solid, but as you can see, it's clearly not. I've used the black glint again, but say I want to blank in the seals. I'm thinking Johnny Depp here. I'm sure a lot of you will be thinking Johnny Depp along with me, and you won't mind one little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small paintbrush, when I find it's hidden underneath something, and my black acrylic paint from the, you know, the pebby holes that we use in Paint Fusion. Just take your paint and just go ahead, and you can paint really effectively directly onto that acetate surface. This is the only paint straight out of the jar that you can do this with. The reason being that it's an opaque paint. It's got it's acrylic base, which is plastic, and the surface you're painting on is also plastic, and it likes each other. Now I'm going to continue this, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when it's finished, and I'll see you in a minute. And there you have it, my homage to the black pearl. Just a little bit of black acrylic. Black embossing powder works great, and of course you can do it with white embossing powder and the white acrylic paint and so on and so on. You can see the pattern, and yeah, just another look again, and there you have it, caught in crystal. And the thing is with this, you want the light to get on it. Make sure you move it, you get the light, you get the look of the colours and tones in the background.